You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. Most options trading platforms are commission-free, and there are some that don't charge per contract fees. Public.com goes a step further. When you trade options on Public, there are no commissions, no per-contract fees, and you get a rebate of up to 18 cents per contract traded. That means it costs less than $0 per transaction. In other words, instead of paying to place options trades, you literally earn money, and that money can add up fast. If you trade 1,000 option contracts on Public, you'll earn up to $180 in rebates. 10,000 contracts? Up to almost $1,200. It's pretty obvious why NerdWallet recently gave options trading on Public 5 out of 5 stars. Because Public really stands out for the cost of its options trades. Their words, not ours. If you want to start paying less than $0 to trade options, check out Public.com and get a rebate of up to 18 cents per contract traded. Paid for by Public Investing. Options not suitable for all investors and carry significant risk. Full disclosures in podcast description. U.S. members only. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means it is Monday. It is noon Central. It is 1 p.m. Eastern. It is time to kick off a new trading week with your favorite bi-weekly options program known around the globe as the Option Block. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the THE, OptionsInsider.com, as well as from the network upon which so many of you are mainlining these days. Those of you listening on the podcast, you heard fun new sponsor joining the network this week, the folks at Public, launching their options platform out there. And they thought, what better way to spread the word amongst you folks, the options faithful, the diehard options traders out there, than to sponsor your favorite bi-weekly options program. So check them out, of course, over there at public.com. Say, hey, we heard you on the Option Block. They would love to hear it. Of course, it helps keep firms coming into the fold, new firms reaching out all the time, wanting to become a part of the hottest thing in the world of options these days. That's all thanks to you folks at the end of the day. If you folks weren't tuning in, none of this would matter. So keep tuning in, keep leaving those ratings and reviews. And again, if you do like what you hear from Public, any of the other firms that come out there and support the network, let them know. That's how they keep supporting the network going forward, which means more great content for you folks at the end of the day. I was excited to get the call from Public because they put out one of my favorite financial ads of all time a few years ago, and they had Michael Bolton singing about payment for order flow. I never thought I would see the day. Back when we were on the SIBO, we were compiling data to send to the SEC about how the public was being disadvantaged by trade-throughs as a result of payment for order flow. Never thought a few decades later we'd have Michael Bolton singing about it. And the folks at Public brought you that. So tip of the cap to them for that. and should be intriguing. Also, I like the idea of a rebate. I like the idea of getting a rebate when you're trading options. So again, not many new options brokers coming into the space, so we always like that. We like someone that brings something new to the table. And I do have to say, a rebate, definitely something new. So check them out if you are so inclined. We'll learn more about that platform as time goes on. But now it is time to commence our broadcast week in high style. You know who I'm joined by. I'm joined by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com, as well as by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. They both need to get their hands on their buzzers because it's time for a little bit of 80s trivia. Here we go. Loud 80s trivia music. There we go. A little bit. All right. This one should be easy if you were paying attention to the network last week, listeners. Hint, hint. Out there. This particular show. All right. We talked about a very specific movie on this fine program. This time a week ago. I actually mentioned it multiple times on the network last week, probably because our buddy Mr. Dr. Vix was particularly dour last week. But we mentioned a very popular 80s film, came out in 1983. The main character named David discovers a password, which gives him access to the Whopper, the WOPR account, which is a computer. The computer asks David, would you like to play a game? My best computer voice. No one's buzzing in yet? Okay, there we go. All right. I thought for sure that would give it to you. The questions. What is the name of the movie? And for a bonus, what game does David want to play? Go for it. Mr. Rock Lobster, you are first, sir. Mr. Rock Lobster, are you there, sir?
Time is up. Mute button penalty.
Oh,
he does not get to answer.
Oh, no. Did you buzz it and fail to unmute?
Mute button
penalty. No.
It was WarGames. It was Matthew Broderick, I think.
Yes, you did. You almost lost it with the mute button foul.
I know.
No, it's past expiration. It's past the close. He expired worthless. He expired worthless. Umbrage.
There's
too much data.
That is too funny. Only the Rock Lobster would cut himself off at the pass with a yet another mute button foul. That is actually very apropos for the Rock. Yes, it is WarGames. I will give you the point. Circle gets the square. Mr. Uncle Mike, to allay your umbrage, I will give you the chance for a half point. What game does David want to play in said movie?
Global thermonuclear war.
Yes, exactly. Yes, all right, well done. All right, a point for the Rock Lobster digging himself out of that hole. Uncle Mike, though, firing right back with a half point for WarGames and everyone's favorite game, Global Thermonuclear War, which is what Mr. Once and Future Dr. Vix was going on about last week. Very dour fellow last week. Instead, let's turn things up a little bit. Let's head on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where, surprise, surprise, we talk about not just global thermonuclear war, but also what is trading. It's another one of those days, listeners. You don't like what's going on in the market? Just wait 5 minutes because you will get a completely different scenario. When we kicked off the show, right before it, all the major indices were red, but red ever so slightly. They're all down about 1/10 of a point, somewhere in that range. Now, as we kick off the show, I guess folks liked our little bit of a trivia segment. Everything's up about 1/10 of a percentage point, I should say, across the board out there. So all that means a long way around to saying really not much going on out there to kick off the week. Obviously, we have some inflation data coming up later this week. Also, earnings. Seems like we just got finished with earnings, but that's the nice thing about earnings. It never ends. Just keeps chugging along. So we'll have some great data for you on the earnings front this cycle as well. Last cycle, bit of a banger. We'll get to all that fun in a little bit. All that a long way around to saying VIX was north of the 15 handle still when we kicked off the show. Was that about a 1560 when we kicked off the show? Right before it, that's up about 1.8 points. It has come in a little bit. It's about 1540 right now. Still puts it up about 1.6 points from where we were on our last episode. VVIX 87. up quite a bit from our last show as well. VXX 13 3/4, up about 3/4 of a point. UVXY up about half a point to about a 680 out there. SVIX at a 40 even, down a little over about 2.1 points. And good old UVIX at a 970, up about 0.9 from our last little chat here on ye old network. Of course, a lot of red earlier in the week last week, really conspiring to lift vol pretty much across the board. Let's go out to the Rock Lobster now, where, surprise, surprise, he actually managed to score a point in our 80s trivia game. Do you have any other fond memories of the seminal 80s? I have to watch. I haven't seen this film in forever. The seminal 80s film that was WarGames. I love when he puts the phone on the modem to dial in. That's all just so vintage 80s. You have any memories of that film, sir? And then B, what's catching your eye out there in a kind of a lazy start to the week?
I mean, the only thing I would say is like Matthew Broderick had quite a run in the 80s of movies.
He was the man there. He had that. He had, of course, Ferris Bueller. He had a bunch of good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a lot of, he definitely, and that's really, I mean, I don't think I've seen that movie in 40 years. So I'm
in the same boat. I want to show it to my son just so we could say, Dad, why is he putting the phone on the thing? And just to explain all of that 80s tech is worth it in and of itself.
Yes. And everybody now thinks they suffered so badly, but the, that's all I have really on that particular thing. But as far as like the vol, I think we have, I'll just say this: VIX is pretty darn high for a market that's not moving very much. We had that sort of Fed inflation, Ukraine inspired sell-off on Thursday, and we bounced back, I mean, quite a bit. And now the market is pricing this CPI number like kind of out of sight. So in the past month or so, I think they had underpriced the news coming out of these. And now I think it's priced probably a little more accurately, more like the straddle for the week is about $75 in SPX, probably still a little light. And, VIX is 15, but like, where's vol going after this CPI number? So kind of an interesting, I think we had, again, thinking of that WarGames and all that kind of stuff. We talked about a little on Friday. Nothing really has come of it yet. And probably won't be, as the Biden administration must have back-channeled something to calm people's nerves. But, I think we have, it's pretty high. It's a pretty big VIX number for a 10 volatility market in the SPX. So realized vol is about 10%. So, I mean, I don't know how much more you want to make, how much more expensive you want to make the options. But I think the biggest concern is like another 100-point rip in SPX. So, hey, listen, when the market's going up, it's going up, and the traders are starting to price that upside vol, and I think that's kind of where we are right now. So, CPI number coming, and then we got big bank earnings at the end of the week. If those come in kind of strong, VIX is back to 14 or less by Friday. So, I think that's what we got right now.
That's what we got indeed. You're right. A very strong, a very solid VIX number for what we're seeing out there in the market right now. But we all know the market poised on the head of a pin could move in any direction at any time out there. And everyone's kind of waiting for that shoe to drop. And VIX kind of maybe reflecting that number out there, reflecting that unease, that general sense of unease. I won't reveal what won our poll last week, but you folks were definitely liking yourselves a little bit of hedging action out there in the S&P, which may not come as music to the ears of our permeable Mr. Uncle Mike, who's all ride or die, straight upside SPX all the time, go big or go home. I believe that's the alternate name of his firm is Go Big or Go Home Asset Management. Mr. Uncle Mike, first off, do you have any enduring memories of one 80s film, which again, I have to see this again. I have not seen this movie in forever. WarGames. And then B, what else is going on at Go Big or Go Home Asset Management?
No. Yeah, I haven't seen WarGames in a long time. I was, but a couple of memories that I do have from it is just the way that they thought he was a Russian spy, I remember, and so that was why they wanted to take him in. I think one of the generals said something, I think it was in this movie, but I'm not 100% sure, but one of them said that he'd be willing to urinate on a live spark plug if it would stop World War III. And so that's one that always stayed with me throughout the years from where it's at, because that sounds very painful to me. But anyway, in terms of these markets, the thing that's really catching my eye is the precious metals. We're continuing to get a bump in the shiny stuff. Gold continues to be at all-time highs. And then silver is in a weird spot right now in that it's not broken through some of the more recent highs. And when I say more recent, I'm talking about in the last couple of years. But gold continues to go to all-time highs. So the more recent high of silver, we can track that back to February of 2021 to where it was just, I'm looking at SLV here, it was just underneath 28. And so before that, back when silver had its heyday in 2011, 2012 era, primarily April of 2011, the high was 48.35. And so one thing that's going to be interesting to watch is that with gold continuing to go at all-time highs, at what point is silver going to join them? And silver's been the little brother of gold for a long, long time, or a lot of people refer to it as poor man's gold, but it's definitely interesting to watch in that if it can break through with the support of or the buying support that gold has had, at some point, gold people typically like silver as well. It'll be interesting to see if silver can catch up to it. In the bond market, that's the other thing that I'm watching quite a bit, actually. The 10-year note, right around, I'm just showing as of, we're roughly at 4.4, the yield on the 10-year. And so with that, there's definitely been some selling in the bond space. One thing that, I've talked about this on the strategy block before, what I've been doing is just been keeping people into 1 to 3 month treasuries. And of course, the gamble on doing that is that if bonds do rally, we will not be a part of it. And so that's the reason of the joy of options, because we have some calls on some, we're spreading it. It's not just calls, but we have some calls on some longer term options to kind of mitigate that a little bit. So inverted yield curves call for creativity in the option space, and that's what we're really trying to do with it. And well, it's fascinating to me. It's never a dull moment in trying to use options in the bond space in an inverted yield curve. That is for sure. A couple names that are sticking out to me today in the stock world. Of course, we have Tesla up over 5% on the day. That's the main one. What's interesting to me is that NVIDIA is only down 0.8%. And so the fact that NVIDIA is not moving that much, it's a dull day when NVIDIA has not moved more than 1%. So we have that. We also have the fruit company, Apple, continuing in the high 160s. So it'll be interesting to see if that's a buying opportunity or it continues to go a little bit lower. Once again, for Apple, for a long-term holding, I think it's a wonderful company. Does it have the innovation index that it once had 10 years ago when we were on this show talking about when Mark would make fun of me for having such a large Apple position? And I don't think it has that type of innovation that it had back then, but nonetheless, it is a phenomenal company overall. And that is what I am seeing in the markets today.
Let's see what we're seeing out there on the options action front. Is it a banger day? Well, it kind of depends where you're looking out there right now. Let's kick things off in VIX as we are wont to do, listeners. And VIX actually looking surprisingly robust out there right now, given the fact that we're kind of having a gentle malaise to kick off the trading week out there. VIX is putting up some numbers, 564,000 contracts on the tape right now. The ADV also surging after, of course, the nearly 1 million we put up even by showtime on vol views on Friday. Obviously, a decently active week last week. So we knew that ADV was going to move back up to 733,000 contracts. So definitely looking respectable out there. And what's light on the tape out there today? Looks like the June 15 puts are leading the dance out here today with 40,000 pretty much exactly going up. Going up for a $1.01 June 15 puts. Mr. Rock Lobster, does that float your boat? Does that excite you? The June 15 puts for $1?
It's one of those things where, well, they're actually up money already. You know, you like that first day pop, right? When you buy some options and the value goes up. What I find is for where VIX has definitely taken the vol has taken a tick up. So it was in the mid 70s last week before the pop. Now it's in the high 80s, probably traded 90 into Friday, Thursday, Friday. I don't find these options I think they're pretty inexpensive relative. But this is, the higher VIX goes, the farther it can go down. So by definition, when VIX goes higher, there's two-way direction. I know that sounds kind of, intuitive or, obvious, but, when VIX is 13, there is not a lot of room for it to go down. It can, but it's kind of been, we haven't seen those kind of zone one low vols in a while. But up here, when VIX is 15.5, it can go to 13. So that's a 2.5 point drop. So all those puts I find are interesting. 15 puts, 15.5, 16 puts, all can pay. And upside call spreads are relatively inexpensive. So I think, it prices pretty well here. You haven't gotten really that big pop in vol. So yeah, I think they're very reasonable at that price. It is hard to believe between now and June expiration that VIX won't trade 13 at least once in the next 2 months. So when I look at trading vol like that, I think of what's likely. And I think that is a very likely trade outcome. So I think that, I like that as a trade. I have a little June on. I bought June 1522 strangles. And when VIX rallied on Thursday, I sold upside calls to kind of complete, to reduce my strangle cost. So, but when you have that trade set up, and now the idea for me is now I have a lot of insurance value for my upside contracts. The strangle cost me is very, very inexpensive at this point. It's like $1.55, I believe. And it's likely because I think I don't think I have the 15 puts on for the trade. So I think the 15 puts eventually pay the whole freight. I don't need much out of them at this point. And then I'll have just free upside for the duration. So you can trade all this stuff like that any way you want. But yeah, I think the pricing is compelling at this level. But I've got what I need in June, and unless there is, better opportunity for price, I generally wait till there's a new reason or incentive to add more to the position. So for trading VIX, I like 3 things: change in direction, change in curve shape, or change in zone for a new volatility trade, because then you set up a new rebound. And any one of those 3 things, it's ideal if you get all 3 at once, because then the market is basically just stood on its head and changed its mind. So anyway, those are my 3 tricks for trading VIX. And if all that is confusing, you know where to go to learn it.
Hey, we like the April 13 puts for 20 odd cents. So we got to love the Junes for $1. It's a bargain.
We do. Although I did reduce the cost. I'm down to, I think I'm down to 12 cents entry cost now.
I may have done something similar myself as well. So yes, I may have averaged a little bit lower on those.
But it'll be interesting to see if we get back there. I think we'll have a shot at least to get out what we paid for them. I don't know if they're going to, I don't know if they're going to pay as bigly as we thought they were, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't expect a 75-cent print on those anytime soon. But yeah,
no, but I'll laugh to the bank though if we print 12.5.
I'll take it.
Cycle.
I won't be angry at it, but intriguing stuff. You like those, listeners? June 15 puts for about $1. It's an intriguing one. Intriguing, Def. You get a lot of time. It's not cheap, but you get a lot of time for that. So that's kind of interesting. Let's keep on rolling. SPY looking kind of light today. 4 million only as of this portion of the show, which is kind of light. Usually expect them about 4.3. So VIX kind of bucking the trend out there today, putting up some numbers. Everything else kind of languishing. The ADV 7.5 in the SPY. The S 1.5 million. The ADV a little over 3 million. So exactly halfway to its ADV, even though a little bit lighter than what we've seen usually at this time of show in the past. The small caps 514, so looking respectable. The ADV 1.1 million contracts out there. And the Q's at about 2 million. So except for VIX, everything's slightly below where it normally is this time of day. The ADV 3.6 million out there. Let's get out to the single names. Is it a banger day out there, listeners? Are we going to light you up with some stunning options paper in the single names? The answer is no. Don't get your hopes up. It cost you only 152,000 contracts to break into the top 10 today. That's lighter than we've seen it in quite some time. Those are, quite frankly, mid-August numbers. That gets you to Alphabet Class A. Used to be Class A made it into our top 10. You knew it was a sluggish day. These days, with the whole AI thing turning markets on its head, all of a sudden, Alphabet Class A is a regular player in our top 10. Today, only 152,000 contracts on the tape, I should say, coming in at number 10, pretty much exactly. They are trading right now at 154 and about 2/3, up a little over $2, about 210 on the day. Good for the number 10 spot. Number 9, Taiwan Semi, 156 on the tape for them, 143 3/4, up about 2 1/3 on the day. They, of course, the latest beneficiary of the government's largesse on the chip side. Always kind of ironic to me to try to bolster domestic national chip production by giving a lot of money to a foreign company. Kind of funny. I know they're going to produce them here. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to shore up things, obviously you want domestic company to maybe control that. You have more control over that as a government than you do Taiwan Semi. A lot of things could happen in Taiwan, obviously, that could change the game. But intriguing nonetheless. Obviously, the government is looking to ramp up domestic chip production no matter the cost. And obviously, TSM, a big player, number 9 today, 156 on the tape. Number 8, cover your ears, Uncle Mike. We're going to crypto land. It's Marathon Digital Holdings, ticker symbol MARA, 1820, off about 20 odd cents today. Good for number 8, 163,000. If you want more, obviously, Bitcoin revisiting its highs. I will be joined by our buddy, Mr. Greg Magadini from Amber Data, a little bit later today on the crypto rundown. Number 7, another firm that has been a beneficiary of government largesse of late. This is Micron, 123.80, up about 25 cents today. Good for number 7, 198,000 contracts. Number 6, it's Meta, the artist formerly known as Facebook. Taking it on the chin today, 521.11, off about 6 1/4, about 1.2%. So a rare down day, a rare red day for Meta. Again, good for number 6, 261,000 contracts on the tape. Number 5, it's the newest member of the Dow. I'm not going to stop saying that. It just cracks me up. It's the Amazonians. 185.40, up about 30 odd cents on the day. Good for just a tick under 300K, 299,000 contracts, and the number 5 overall spot today. Slotting in where it's kind of been hanging out of late, it's Apple coming in at number 4. Pretty light day for them as well, 386,000 contracts. But that's all it takes to get you to number 4 today, because it's a pretty light day overall, listeners. Apple back in the 160 odd handle again, so all you Apple bulls, maybe not the day you were looking for. 168.60, off about exactly $1, or almost a little over 0.5% on the day. Are the woes of Apple behind it? Now we got a huge antitrust investigation again. Those things tend to linger for a while, so at least for right now, the market's answer is no. Apple number 4. Number 3, AMD, 438,000 contracts, 170 and about 1/3. Kind of unched, only off about $0.05 today, so not exactly a banger day for AMD, even though they did get down to 166.82 earlier this morning, so they have rallied off those lows. Good for number 3, 438,000 contracts today. Number 2, it's NVIDIA, 871, pretty much even, off about $9 or about 1%. Today, they are about $4 off their lows of around 867. Also, quite a ways from where they opened at 887 today. So, wild day for NVIDIA, at least range-wise. They're kind of settling out right now. but good for only 532,000. That doesn't generate a lot of paper out there for them today. 500,000 contracts. Nothing to sneeze at, but for NVIDIA, we have obviously seen much more. That means number one, you know what it is. Maybe you love it. Maybe you hate it. Either way, it's Tesla. 1.37 million contracts. Market loving it today. 173 and about a quarter, up about 8 1/3, a little over 5% today. So apparently all the woes of the EV world are behind it now. Either way, Tesla rallying hard out there today. More buyers than sellers. Kid at the end of the day. Wise words, wise advice I got when I walked onto the floor of the SIBO. And you know what? Still applicable all these years later. If you want some hot earnings season action, well, guess what, listeners? We got some dregs kicking off pretty soon, including Tilray. A lot of action in the cannabis sector. Like they're popping off on Tuesday. You know, when WD-40's rolling onto our tape, that is kind of the dregs of the season. Things are winding to a close. Everyone's favorite, the Rock Lobster's favorite, Rent the Runway, coming up after the bell on Wednesday. We have talked about them before on, I believe it was Oddities. Kind of that stock just falling off a cliff. It looks like a little better now, back to $5. So I guess they've had a little bit of a resurgence. I guess people are renting the runway again. Either that or they reverse split. They're still off 50% on the year, and they were as high as about almost $15. Actually, a 52-week high is almost $70. So yeah, $5 still looking pretty anemic, but they've had a little bit of a resurgence in the last week or so. But there you go. Then, you know, CarMax on Thursday. It's not till Friday where we really kick things off in earnest again with BlackRock, Wells Fargo, Citi, Progressive, and then it kind of just goes from there, listeners. So if you want some hot earnings action, we got you covered coming up very soon. Right now, if you're looking for Delta Airlines, they're on the 10th before the bell. They were trading 46 even as of this report, which, by the way, is hot off the presses from our friends over there at Oretz. 259 is what they were pricing in, which is pretty juicy when you look at all their past moves in aggregate are only $1.66. So Delta, somebody's pricing in a little bit of action. Citi also coming up this week, 12th before the bell. 61.60 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $2.50. In the past, they moved the $1.86. So pricing in extra juice in Citi as well. Is that the case in all the financials? Let's find out. Wells Fargo, 12th before the bell. 57.40 is where they were trading. They were pricing in $2.42. In the past, they moved $2.07. My goodness, a lot of extra juice there. Goldman Sachs next week, the 15th. Are they pricing in a lot of juice? Let's find out. 408 even is where they were trading. They were pricing in $13.30. In the past, they've moved, get this, listeners, $10.43. So the answer across the board for all the financials, at least so far, the ones we profiled here, is yes. JP Morgan, 12th before the bell. 197.5 is where they were trading when we ran this report. They were pricing in $6.63. In the past, they've moved $5.52. So the answer is a resounding yes, at least for the financials. They are pricing in a heck of a lot of extra juice out here, which is kind of fascinating. Is it merited, listeners? We have seen some interesting action in the financials of late. We saw some interesting action last season as well. I think we topped out around, what was it, 124%, 120, something ridiculous. It's so juicy, listeners, that our long-term average has now skyrocketed to 109%. I've never seen it that high in all the years that we've been crunching this data. So last season, a banger. Can it keep it up? I guess we'll find out. If past is prologue, we usually light things up out of the gate in week one, outperforming the most of any week of the cycle, 121% historically. So if you're looking for a banger week, week one is where you should look. As we keep looking for a little bit of weird paper, it is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, let's get going, listeners. A little bit of the old Odd Block, the portion of the show where we get weird, we get wild. We unleash the eye of Sauron and see what funky paper it hunted down for us today. And before we do that, actually, let's unleash the eye of the Cyclops, something we normally only do on Options Oddities every Friday. But he found a little tasty morsel, and I thought it was too good to hold on till the pro on Friday. Let's share it with the folks now, shall we, listeners? So, Mr. Rock Lobster, your ever-scanning eye of the Cyclops seems to have fixed itself on a name we were just talking about, a name you may be familiar with, listeners. Yes, it's NVIDIA. We don't talk about them too often because it's just a tsunami of paper out there every day. But every once in a while, a tasty morsel comes across our radar. Mr. Rock Lobster, what tasty morsel did you find out there in NVIDIA for the folks today?
Well, so this paper, I feel, goes up every week where customers buy near-term 1,500 level calls in NVIDIA for a penny. And they buy a lot of them. So, right, I think this morning I sent you a thing. Looks like they bought 10,000 of the April 12, 1,500 calls for a penny. And I guess what they're waiting for is for NVIDIA to split the stock. I think that's the nearest I can think of. Because I don't think this would qualify as a TOSAW purchase or or a purchase for me, for that matter. Why they buy the 1,500s for a penny, I don't know. Because they could buy the 1,300s, they could buy the 1210s, they could buy the 1,200s, but they keep picking the 1,500s every week. I guess it's some sort of magic hocus pocus strategy that I can't figure it out. But if NVIDIA announces a 10-for-1 stock split, stock will probably go up $100 just on madness. Even though there's no real fundamental reason for it to go up $100, it will probably go up $100. Which I assume that's what this person's trying to get. Maybe get a double, triple on these. Get them to a dime. I don't know.
Get them to a dime.
If you or Mike can think of a reason why you would buy the 1,500 calls in NVIDIA, which are $700 or $600 out of the money, let me know. I can't figure it out.
What is going on in the market where the 1,500s are dime bid coming out? I was going to say if they get to 2 cents, they're going to be giddy campers and hit that bid all day, which that even in of itself is absurd. But a dime? My goodness. Uncle Mike, first off, now that you're over there at Go Big or Go Home Asset Management, why are you buying so many of the NVIDIA 1,500s, sir?
I wanted to trying to keep the Rock Lobster on his toes. My strategies remain a secret because, you can buy a lower strike price for, I don't get it either.
Yeah, it's like they just skipped over that chapter, maybe the first half of Natenberg, which says in big letters, if an option is offered at a penny, hundreds of strikes below where you're buying it, then just buy that rather than going farther beyond it. But this makes sense to some algo out there. Someone thinks he's cracked the code to riches. You like these, listeners? 1,500s expiring this Friday for a penny. I guess if this guy's going to buy these and you could leg in, buy like the 1,200s, sell them to this guy. Now you got the 1,200, 1,500 vertical for nothing. There you go. You're just printing money out there. Good times. Listen, let's keep rolling. Let's get some newcomers here on the old network. Not just in the sponsors. Let's get new blood across the board. Let's go out to the defense sector this time, listeners, to KTOS Defense and Security Solutions, Inc., ticker symbol KTOS, named after Kratos, the god of war. I don't know. 1860 out there today, about 80 cents or about 4.5% out there. Stock, so he said, stock popping out there today on the year. It's a year where things, let's just say globally, have been a little bit a sense of unease, to put it mildly. So I think you could probably expect that a defense and security name probably having a decent year. And the answer is yes. They were trading $12.89 a year ago. So they're up almost $6 or nearly 50% on the year. So nice run. They got up to their high for the year, $21 and $21.60 actually. They threatened that a couple of times in December and again in February. Then they kind of gave up the ghost from there. They were trading about $17 in March. Since then, they've rallied about $1.60 out there. So intriguing. I don't know what type of they just say they concentrate in weapons and military electronics. So that covers a lot of ground. So either way, they're having a good day. They beat earnings back in February. They popped 17% that day. And Mr. Rock Lobster, looks like somebody thinks the partay in KTOS Defense and Security Solutions Inc. is going to continue because they came in this morning and they scooped not 100, not 1,000, not even 3,000, but 3,600 of the July 20 calls, which, in case you haven't figured it out, listeners, KTOS, not exactly the option stalwart out there. The ADV is only 1,100 contracts, so you're talking over 3x that just in this one print, which probably explains why they had to go about a nickel through the offer to get done. These were 95 at $1. They paid about $1.05 for these 3,600 times. By the Rock Lobster's math, they're looking all right, by anybody's math, really, because the stock was $17.87 when they bought these. Stock now about $18.60, so they caught that early pop here in good old KTOS. Also worth noting, they got earnings coming up in about a month, May 2nd. So we'll know more then about how these calls are faring. But Mr. Rock Lobster, they're looking for KTOS to pretty much repeat its rally back to the high for the year of 2160 and then some. This thing really needs to move for these calls to pay off. Now, luckily, they got some time. They're not buying this Friday like our NVIDIA friend. They're buying all the way out in July. But still, July 20s for $1. You need some action for these to pay off. What are your thoughts on your new favorite, KTOS Defense and Security Solutions, Inc.?
That's again, interesting one. I think all the defense stuff because of, gosh forbid, this whole Ukraine. Anyway, I don't want to discuss it. No wonder why Russell was so dour on Friday. Again, they're buying the right term. Like, I would be not happy if they bought the April 20s, but the July 20s, again, in lieu of stock, I don't think this is a bad idea for a position. So yeah, I don't think these are terrible because the stock has been over 20. So yeah, I think they could get a little bit of a pop in here. So again, not a terrible call purchase. They're buying more duration. And duration is the key when you're buying options. I mean, they're already up 50 cents in a day. So you can't, you're up 50% on your calls before the ticket's dry.
Get the heck out of Dodge. Get the heck out of Dodge on these.
Yeah. I mean, that's not too bad. So yeah, priced correctly. Again, low volatility, in what could be a hot sector. So there you go. I'll tell you what, I like these a lot better than the 1,500 calls in NVIDIA.
Yes, I was just going to say, compared to the NVIDIA calls, these have a shot. So you're telling me there's a chance on these?
Yes,
KTOS.
There's a chance.
This one, obviously they're up money today, which is always good, but this is an interesting one. Someone obviously thinks maybe a thing. I was just looking over their website. They make a little bit of everything. They're a giant defense kind of holding corp. They own a bunch of different companies. A lot of wireless systems, also some anti-tank missiles, satellite stuff. You name it. So kind of all over the place in the defense infrastructure game. Somebody thinks things are looking up for them, listeners. So intriguing. Keep this one on your radar, maybe. A little KTOS. Maybe the game is afoot out there. Maybe they already got their move and they're going to cash out. Either way, let's keep rolling. Let's get another newcomer on there. I'm feeling fresh. I'm feeling new. We got a new sponsor joining the network. Let's just make everything fresh and new out there today. Let's go out to the Rock Lobster's favorite name. This is Darling Ingredients Inc., ticker symbol DAR, D-A-R. They own Valley Proteins and a bunch of other things. I don't know what Darling they are, but they make a lot of Darling ingredients, trading 46.36, up $1.75 today, or nearly 4%. So another hot mover out here. On the year, though, a little bit of a different story. On the year, they're off over $12, or about 21%. So rough year for them. They were about $60 a year ago. They rallied all the way up to their high for the year of $71.60 in mid-July. Then they fell off a cliff by October. Right around Halloween, they got to their low for the year of a little bit shy of $39, $38.96. So they got cut in half pretty much, close to it, between July and October. Then they kind of vacillated around. They were still at around $40 on Valentine's Day. And then since then, they've rallied up to right now where they are about 46 and change out there. And it seems like, once again, Mr. Rock Lobster, folks swinging for the upside fences, coming in this morning, scooping not 100, not 1,000, but 2,000 of the May 50s, the 5-0s, paying $1.40 for these. Are all rich call purchases today. $1.05 for the KTOS, $1.40 for the Darling. May 50s, 5-0s. 52-week high is 71.60, so they have gotten there in the past. Whether they can do it again is an open question. That was about a 47 vol. The stock, again, like our other friend, they kind of caught the nice timing on the call purchase because the stock was at 45.87 when they bought these. So these calls looking good right now. They also have earnings in exactly a month, May 8th. So they will get some earnings juice in this trade as well. This is another rich one, Mr. Rock Lobster, and then they don't have as much time as our friend out there in July in KTOS. What are your thoughts on these, on your other new favorite name, Darling Ingredients, sir?
Well, Darling, you like this one because the ticker is proper. It's DAR. It's not some bizarro ticker. So it passes the I like the ticker test.
I do salute that, sir.
Yes. Now you have edible and inedible bionutrients. I don't even know what that is. But they actually have a lot of revenue. So they probably, some kind of weird food company thing. I don't know. Never heard of it. Pet food, animal feed. So I guess they make stuff that goes into foods and pharmaceuticals and all this kind of stuff.
Did you get all that from the name ingredients? Yes, stuff that goes into foods.
Well, I was looking at like all their additives, and then I like this fuel ingredient. Fuel ingredients operating segment includes its global activity related to the conversion of organic sludge and food waste into biogas. So maybe this also company has a lot of green bona fides. Kind of, I don't know, sort of an interesting company. Is this? I guess it's domestic. Yeah, it's based in Texas. I don't know, kind of odd. I'm going to add this to my list on just because of an oddball type company here. Wow, trading at a year low was an $80 stock. So again, it's like probably related to, they do something with green that probably got everybody jacked up on it. And then, the Green New Deal kind of, it has not really produced. However, I know, interesting. I'm going to put it on my year low list of stocks. And yeah, I don't think these calls are unreasonable. The stock is up almost $2 today, so the stock can move. Not terrible. They're up a little bit on the calls. They purchased already. So, feeling this could feel love. I don't think it's a bad purchase for calls. If the stock has a chance to rebound, but I just added it to my year low list because, that's what I do here on this show.
That's what we do here, listeners. We give the Rock Lobster more fuel for his trading. And speaking of Darling Ingredients, it is now time for the darling of the entire network. Yes, Uncle Mike TOSAW, because it is time for the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what do you have in store for us today?
It is the last week before tax day. So if you have an IRA that you are looking to contribute to a traditional, to a Roth, whatever the case may be for 2023, this is your last chance to do it. And if you're listening to this on Monday, I'd recommend that you get it done on Monday, because brokerage firms and the IRA department this time of year, it's like For an 80s reference, going to Toys R Us back during the week before Christmas. They're very busy. They really don't like people this time of year. They're very angry because everyone's the last minute IRA person, like the last minute shopper. So just be prepared for that. So some things that you can do, of course, if you're contributing to your traditional IRA, you can still do that for 2023. If you're contributing to your Roth IRA, you can do that for 2023. Definitely get that done as soon as you possibly can. If you are a backdoor Roth person, so in other words, I have clients that they're higher income earners and they don't qualify for a Roth. But what we do with them is all of their retirement money is in 401ks, whether it's Roth 401ks or traditional 401ks in terms of retirement money. What we'll do is we will contribute to a traditional IRA, and then they don't get to deduct it because they're covered by a work plan. So they're not allowed to do that because they make too much money and they're covered by a work plan, meaning they have a 401k through their work. Whether they own their own business, whether they work for a company, whatever the case may be, they're what's known as covered. And so from that standpoint, what we can do is we can contribute, we meaning the client, can contribute to a traditional IRA. They do not get to deduct it. But what they can immediately do is convert it to a Roth IRA. And that's what's known as a backdoor Roth. Now, I know it sounds like this shady, evil, secret backroom deal, but it's that's what they call it. The IRS is totally fine with it. You can look it up on the irs.gov website. It's a legitimate thing. Understand, though, if you do have money in an IRA, then it gets kind of complicated. There's a formula for it, in that some of it you will have to pay taxes on because the IRS views a conversion that a portion of your IRA that you already had deducted would have to be taxed. And if you already have IRA money that you've deducted, make sure you do your homework before doing this backdoor Roth thing. But if you're a backdoor Roth person, for 2023, just make sure you get your traditional IRA contribution in as soon as possible. And then if you need to wait another week or so to do the conversion, that's fine. The conversion has no deadline. But if you do need to get the contribution in, I would suggest doing that as absolutely soon as possible. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go directly to your cashiering department at your brokerage firm and get that contribution done, and then apologize for doing it so late in the year, because they'll give you a nasty look whenever you deal with it this time of year. So anyway, that is the strategy for today.
That's a good reminder for all of us to get that done, Mr. Uncle Mike, as we keep on rolling and go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
Checking out this KTOS defense while Uncle Mike was talking about IRAs, just to see what they do. And they make a stealth AI combat drone. So it's a combat drone that can go 3,000 miles, powered by AI. Yeah, that's not nightmare fuel at all. Like, apparently they've never watched a sci-fi movie, and I think there is actually a movie about this where a rogue drone goes crazy and kills a bunch of people. Apparently they never watched that movie. So there you go. It's called the Valkyrie. What could go wrong with that? KTOS, Valkyrie, I'm sensing a certain theme here to the naming of this company. But I digress. Let's go around the block, see what's popping off. Obviously, a little bit of inflation on the radar this week. We also got perhaps a little bit of the old earnings, as I alluded to at the top of the show. Let's go around the horn, see what everyone's watching. Let's start with the Rock Lobster, sir. What are you keeping an eye on this week, sir?
What am I keeping an eye on this week? I am keeping an eye on CPI, PPI, because that's all that matters. Everything else, nothing else matters. And then earnings at the end of the week. So history on this inflation number, because of the Fed doing whatever they're doing and being overly involved, trying to micromanage all this crap, puts way too much emphasis on this. But anyway, I expect, SPX will be 100 points away from wherever it is by Friday right now. So at least 100 points. So we could be at new highs, 5,300 or above, or inflation is never going away, and we'll all be very sad. And, we're trading 5,100 or less.
There we go. We're moving. Get your weekly 0-day straddle on now, listeners. Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you. First off, are you as terrified of this rogue AI drone as I am? And then B, what's catching your eye out there? What are you watching the rest of this week, aside from this Valkyrie drone that is stalking you as we speak?
No, can't say I'm afraid of it. I've seen it's always a happy ending in the movies, so no, I'm just all that. So no, just watching. To add to what Andrew is watching as well, just watching to see how the precious metals do, and inflation is the key word still. So that's what I'm watching.
And that music means we have come to the end of another epic sojourn through the world of options. I want to again thank the folks at Public for joining the network. Always funny. All of you out there who are lamenting, saying, hey, there are no new brokers coming into the option space. All the old brokers are gone or they've been acquired. Bam, there you go. Public opening the kimono, getting into the options game. So you have no right to complain anymore out there. There are new players coming into the space. So check them out, public.com. Tell them we sent you. Goes a long way. They'll like it. We'll certainly like it here on the network. It's a virtuous circle at the end of the day. If you want to keep getting all this great content coming your way like we have been for the last 17 years, then make sure you tell the sponsors you heard them on the network. That's kind of a foundational piece of how this works. And you know how else this works is our other cohorts here on the show. They do other cool stuff that might interest you. Like, let's say Uncle Mike from St. Charles Wealth Management, also known as Go Big or Go Home Asset Management. Uncle Mike, sir, where should folks go if they want to go big or go home?
Well, I don't know what to say to the go big or go home thing. But anyway, follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW, and also check out my website, stcharleswealth.com. Book an appointment with me. We'd love to have a conversation about IRAs and anything else in investing.
I love when I flummox Uncle Mike's. I mean, it's been a good show when I flummox the uncleist of Mike. Check him out.
You did your duty then.
Check him out, stcharleswealth.com is I'll have to go out and buy Go Big or Go Home assetmanagement.com. Then I could sell it to him at an exorbitant rate. But I digress. Mr. Rock Lobster, same question for you. Where should folks go if they want to discuss these things like maybe the weekly straddle underpricing CPI, sir?
I'm still trying to figure out how to race you and beat you to buy Go Big or Go Home asset management. So,
too late. I'm already typing as we speak.
I was about to say you've already scooped it. Optionpit.com. If you want to learn how to price and trade options, I have multiple products that have unbelievable track records. You probably won't even believe it when you see it. They're like, no way this guy could have 11 or 12 trades in a row that are wins trading options. I don't believe it. He is high. Yet I do all my own trades, put all the alerts out, and my students can fill things at the prices I do. So if you want to learn how to trade options and not just throw darts at the wall, use some kind of statistical stuff, come on over to Option Pit and learn how to do it. There you go. With Mark II and Leisha. Bye-bye.
There you go. Optionpit.com, the place to go. We got to get on out of here. Remember, if you want more content, you want to stay tuned to listen to our shows live like this one, everything else we do on the network. You want to get a great pro Q&A that's coming up this week. You want to get Options Oddities where the Rock Lobster and I hold court for a full hour on all sorts of weird stuff like KTOS and everything else. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro. Congratulations to our winner of our Pro Trading Crate from last week. Get your name in the hat for the April Pro Trading Crate over there, TheOptionsInsider.com/pro. Back again in a little bit for the Crypto Rundown, then back again with our usual array of content throughout the week until we're back again on Thursday with the Flow Master, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
Check out public.com if you want to literally earn money to place options trades. There are no commissions or per contract fees. And Public gives you a rebate of up to 18 cents per contract traded. Discover why NerdWallet recently gave options trading on Public 5 out of 5 stars. And start paying less than $0 to trade options. Only at public.com. Paid for by Public Investing. Options not suitable for all investors and carry significant risk. Full disclosures and podcast description. U.S. members only. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.